Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm Damo, and on today's video we're back with the Mercedes C350E. We're going to go through 13 things you may not know about this car, or you may need to know if you're thinking about buying one. Okay, before we get started on this pedal out video, don't forget, if you haven't done already, please subscribe to the channel, click the little bell icon, and then you get notified whenever we do another video. Cheers. Okay, so one thing you may not know, and I'm guessing this isn't specific to the C350E. Right, just a word of note about this video. I've edited it. I'm sticking this bit in the front because when I was talking, I seemed to be saying C50E and missing the 3 off. Obviously that's not right, and in my head it sounded like I was saying C350E, but apologies for that. C350E. I know what it's called, I know what car I've got, but there we go. In the interior on the dashboard, there is no display for the outside temperature, which struck me as a little bit odd, and I did a bit more research, and apparently where the temperature is displayed on the dashboard in the bottom left corner of the central display, it displays the speed in kilometers per hour, which is apparently a requirement of cars imported into Britain from Europe or something like that. Anyway, there's an obligation for cars to also display the speed in kilometers per hour. Anyway, it does it on the Mercedes in the area where for all the other markets they display the outside temperature. There are apps on the center console infotainment system so you can get the weather that way, but it seems, I don't know, it seems a bit unusual and a little bit odd, and something to be aware of, whereas every other car I've ever had, no matter how much it's cost in recent times anyway, has always had an outside temperature. Very strange. So something else to be aware of if you're buying a C350E, it's obviously a plug-in hybrid. It does have a petrol engine, it's a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder unit, and it's pretty silky smooth really. But you kind of historically maybe thought about purchasing a C350 Mercedes for that sort of sweet spot performance Mercedes C-Class between the sort of lower end diesel models and smaller engine petrol models and the more highly rated performance AMG type models. Whereas this car, despite wearing the C350 badge, arguably it is purely a hybrid. And what I mean by that is it's not a car that's about out and out performance. It does have a Sport Plus mode, but you do have to remember it's a hybrid. It's more focused on economy, rightly or wrongly, and comfort rather than performance. Don't buy this car expecting really, I mean, it's got good performance, but you know, the handling, the driving experience that you perhaps get with the 3 Series BMW, you're not going to get that generally anyway in a kind of C-Class unless you're going for the AMG type models. Don't buy it expecting to tune it up. You can make them look quite nice by dechroming them, etc. It does have the air suspension, so it does look good when it sits low, and you can buy modules to get it to sit lower. So it's an attractive looking car, but it is ultimately plug-in hybrid. Okay, back on the inside of this car, and again this is one that's probably synonymous with all C-Class Mercedes and a lot of cars in general. I've found the DAB radio reception. This is obviously if you're in the UK and your car comes with DAB radio, the reception is not the best, and DAB broadcast signals aren't the best anyway, I don't think, but in here, and it's odd because sometimes it will be fine, you can go the same route and get really clear signal, which does suggest maybe it is the signal strength, but other days you can do that same route again and the signal does keep dropping in and out, which can be a bit frustrating. It's not a massive problem because you can stream Bluetooth from your own phone, but there you go, it's there anyway, worth being aware of. We're down at the driver's door now. Bit of an odd one, I suppose. Depends if you're super fussy. Sometimes I'm not a fan of when you don't get an option with a car. The manufacturer will just leave a mysterious blank button there and you're left searching, wondering what that blank button would have been for had you had that option. If you don't buy high, then you'll always be left staring at empty spaces and little plastic squares where you know there should be more buttons and switches. On this car there were very few of those. This is a Premium Plus C350E. It's pretty much fully loaded. In fact, the only one I could find was this blank bit here by the heated seats, which I'm pretty sure is for ventilated seats. Okay, this one is specific to the C350E hybrid, and that is the electric boot. It's not the electric boot, that's not what I was going to talk about. Under here you've obviously got an electric motor and a battery, albeit a quarter of the size of the one in a Renault Zoe. However, all of that extra electric motor and battery technology does add 200 kilograms to the weight of this car, which is a bit like having a normal C-Class and carrying 3 of your mates around in it. Okay, and while we're on the subject of the difference that the electric motor and battery makes to the weight of this car. There's another couple of things that are worth bearing in mind too. On this estate version, it does intrude slightly into the boot floor area, reducing the boot capacity from 490 litres on a normal C-Class estate to 450 litres. So you're losing 40 litres of boot capacity, worth bearing in mind. Another thing, arguably slightly lesser known, is again, probably because of all the electric motors, battery technology, etc., the fuel tank in this car is reduced as well from 66 litres in a non-hybrid version of the C-Class to just 50 litres. That's not a massive problem because it's a hybrid, it's about economy, but again, worth bearing in mind, and slightly confusing when you do come to fill it up because you sort of think it's going to take more than it does, and it doesn't take much to fill it up, being a slightly smaller tank at 50 litres. Okay, one of the great things about the Premium Plus Mercedes is it comes with electric memory seats, not only on the driver's side but also on the passenger side. But one thing that does bug me a little bit, and I've not been able to figure it out, tell me in the comments if you know that the car can do it, is the seating position doesn't adjust based on the key that you're using. What I'd really like is to use the key that I use, obviously, and the seat position adapt to that key when I unlock it, because it remembers, and then when my better half uses the key that she uses, the seat then positions itself automatically based on her driving position. Is that possible? Not been able to figure it out so far. Okay, so being a plug-in hybrid vehicle is very, very cool, and it means when you're in slow moving traffic, a lot of the time it's running on electric, you feel arguably a little less guilty because you're not chucking out exhaust fumes around in the outside and the people that are walking by, which is something I've kind of never really thought about until buying and using one of these. However, worth bearing in mind that this is a normal charge cable that comes with this car that plugs into the normal socket in your house. It doesn't take too long to charge, so that's very good. It's a normal plug socket. It's not doesn't need anything special or anything else added to be able to charge your car, largely because the battery is so small and there's a small amount of electric range. But you do have to plug it in. Obvious really, but plug-in hybrid electric cars, you do have to plug it in, which means the position of where the charge point is in the back of the car, which means we have to reverse onto the drive. It just means changing a little bit the routine of using this car. At the moment, this lead goes into the garage, and you kind of have to open the door, put the lead in there and put it back and unplug it, plug it in, and remember to do that every time. It's just a habit and you kind of get used to it, but it is something that again is additional to what you would normally do with a normal petrol engine car, and this is obviously petrol engine too. So again, it's just something to worth bearing in mind. I think we'll get this lead a little bit more strategically positioned permanently outside and looped up so we can just kind of unplug and plug in, but there you go. So I was just going to do a whole piece then on how I hadn't been able to figure out how to mute the satellite navigation voice. However, I found out you have to do it using the mute button on the steering wheel. Is there a mute button on the dash somewhere? No, I can't see it. Mute button on the steering wheel when the spoken voice instruction is being played. That sounds obvious, but you'd think that would mute the whole thing. Apparently it doesn't, it just mutes the sat-nav voice. There you go. Also, setting the sat-nav makes more efficient use of the hybrid system in the car, because the car is able to know where you're going and make adjustments accordingly to get the best fuel economy out of it. So using the sat-nav, setting it in theory, and I've said I'll do a video on this and I'm going to try and do that, should give you better economy. All C350E hybrid Mercedes C-Classes come with the Airmatic air suspension as standard. I'm guessing because of the heavy components from the electric motor and battery. There's a button on the center console that allows you to raise the car. It doesn't actually allow you to lower it. Most of the time the car takes care of the air suspension itself, depending on whatever driving mode you're in. You can buy, I've learned, a plug-in module that goes in the onboard diagnostics port that allows you to set the level anywhere you want, so you can go really, really low. Let me know if you've had any experience of that. Maybe something to look into. It's a few £100, I think, but yeah, the button's there on the center console. Another item not specific to the C350E, applies to all C-Class Mercedes, is the gear selector is here. It's a stalk off the steering wheel on the right hand side. Consequently, it means your wipers, steering wheel adjustment, and setting for the control distance, cruise control, is all on the left. You've got all of that switch gear, switches, etc. on the left, and then on the right you've got one gear selector. But you do need to get used to it. You pull it down and it returns to its center position. You pull it down to go into drive, it will return to its center position, and then if you want to go into reverse, you move it up. If you want to put it in park, you push the button in. Now if you're used to your wipers being on that side, well, they're not your wipers now, that's your gear selector, so just be flipping careful with that. I suppose the positive with that is it clears all the center console up from kind of any gubbins there. It's obviously got an electric parking brake as well, which I haven't even ever turned on or off, because as soon as you put it in park, the car takes care of all of that for you, which is again quite nice. Okay, so this particular C350E comes with Artico leather interior in silk beige colour. Now, one of the things I learned recently by checking the VIN number on a very useful website called lasvin.com, key your VIN number in there and you can see all of the options that come with your Mercedes, is actually the option for that particular version of leather is listed as fake. Artico leather is actually not leather at all, it's a man-made non-leather fabric. Now at first I was a bit like quite surprised by that. I actually thought it had a leather interior. Just be careful of sellers selling a car with leather interior when actually it's not real leather. But actually it kind of makes sense, and it makes sense for two reasons. One is when you get inside the car, it's a very pleasant kind of newish car smell, but it certainly isn't a leather smell. Now I know why. But also, this car is a plug-in hybrid, i.e. it's sort of environmental, it's a little bit eco. I guess killing cows to make the interior probably doesn't fit with the whole eco, modern, friendly vibe, does it really? So it does arguably sort of make a bit of sense. Okay, thanks for watching this pedal out video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, write in the comments, tell us what you think, and if you haven't done, please subscribe to the channel, click that little bell icon, then you get notified whenever we do another video. We'll see you again next time. Cheers.